Hello again, Alex here with the fourth instalment of my warehousing series, and I'm sort of looking at something a bit more practical. How to survive a 12-hour shift, especially a night shift. Okay, so what the hell are you doing, Alex? We've all worked in warehouses before type thing. Yeah, but having worked in warehouses, those last 2 hours, as I recall, of a 12-hour shift are a bit of a bummer. Yeah, you just run out of energy. And I've got a few ideas that I'm just going to put forward about how to survive the 12-hour shift and feel okay about it. Okay, first thing, good shoes. Yeah, right. Often when you turn up at a company and they provide you with PPE and stuff, the shoes are a bit on the cheap side, not best quality. Now, bearing in mind you're going to be walking between 6 to 10 miles a day, perhaps, if you're picking. Blisters, serious blisters. So if there's one piece of advice you take from me about working in a warehouse and that sort of thing, get yourself some decent PPE, some decent shoes. Yeah. So rather than buying the £10 budget cheapies, go for something about 40, 50 quid. Something that's going to last, something that is comfortable to work in, and that you can do those distances on. Even if you're agency staff, what tends to happen is they don't let you into a warehouse until you've got your own safety shoes. Spend the money on a decent set. Okay, that's advice number one. As I said, 6 to 10 miles or what have you, a shift. So what? What's wrong with that, and why do I need to survive it? Well, if you think about it, 10 or so miles, that's nearly a half marathon. Now, if I ask you to go off and train for a half marathon, what are you going to do? You're going to, I don't know, get in some silly lycra perhaps and start sort of jogging and various other bits, and you'll have decent gym kit. And also you'll have the sports drinks and the various nibbles and stuff to keep you going, right? Okay. But you don't do that for a warehouse. You assume that a full English is the ideal choice for lunchtime. And, you don't look at fueling your system. Now, one of the things that I do when I'm not doing these sort of videos and working, what have you, is I mountain bike and I ride cycles and stuff. And that's very much about endurance, doing long distances and keeping fueled. You don't need muscle to keep going. And this is a thing you see quite a bit in things like, if you look at the Tour de France people or what have you, supermodel skinny legs. There's no muscle there, but what it's about is keeping what you've got fueled. You can build up endurance, that's something else. But as long as you've got fuel going in. Now, bit of a graph time, if you imagine a graph. Your power curve is going to look like that. What that means is that you've got about 2 hours in your legs or so at a full workout rate, perhaps another half an hour storage in your body for this sort of thing. And a lot of sports people, to get the maximum fuel into their body, do something called carbs loading. They'll load up on carbs before an event. Okay, so carbs loading means that your body's got that 2.5 hours, but it's still that sharp curve. So what you do on endurance events is that you supplement that. You don't need big meals or what have you. In fact, what most people have is easy to digest cake. But what you have is something to increase that curve. So rather than losing energy quickly, you lose energy over a period of time. So this is where things like sports drinks come in. Because what you're doing is you're taking in minerals and vitamins and model point sugar, easy access carbs. And a lot of the sports drinks out there are about 98% carbs. And that's what keeps you fueled. And yet you look at a lot of people that work in warehouses, it's tea, coffee and water. So a cheap sports drink that you can make yourself. Okay, got your sports drinks bottle, away you go, turn up for your shift. Squash with a couple of big dollops of honey in there and a pinch of salt. Salt is good if you sweat a lot. I find it helps me when I'm out riding because it stops me from cramping up when I hit the wall. And that's the other thing, when you hit the wall, you just out of energy, you can't do anything, it hurts. And the danger of then having hit the wall is that you burn through muscle to access the energy. You don't burn fat, you burn muscle. So having some sort of a sports drink, ideal, throughout the shift. Or the cheap honey, that sort of thing. Also, what I found gets me up hills is jelly babies. Got to be Bassett, so yeah. So that'll supplement just 2 or 3 jelly babies that I hit like that. Munch, done. And that'll keep you going. They sell things like sports beans in shops and what have you. Complete junk. You want Bassett's jelly babies, damn sight cheaper. The other thing that you eat out and that sort of thing is things like flapjack and those sort of things with a bit of honey in it. That's again slower release carbs that'll keep you going. Now, another thing that's worth thinking about is how you eat. They did a test in America on the firefighting teams, the ones that go out and do the bushfires. And they had one team that they gave so many calories to in a sandwich type things. Okay, so the other team they gave nibbles to, same calorific intake, but the idea was that rather than having a lunch break, you then have your nibbles throughout the day. You have a break, but you just eat throughout the day. And what they found was that both teams worked great right up until lunchtime. Then the one that had the traditional food, big power curve, because what's happening is your body is using a lot of energy to digest all of that food. And that energy is sapping your energy to go off and fight fires. Whereas the team that were nibbling throughout the day, steady curve. So for your 12-hour shifts or what have you, don't look at having a big meal in the evening. Usually you get 2 15s and a 30 on these things. So have nibbles or something lightish on the 15s and something moderate, perhaps carbs-based, on the 30. That way, you're in with a chance. Now, some places won't allow you to eat or drink on the factory floor. That's fine, but perhaps get something, carbs-based drink or what have you. Let's talk about coffee. More to point, caffeine. What does caffeine give you? Nothing. What it does is it allows you to unlock that 2.5 hours worth of energy in about an hour. So you feel as though you've got lots of get up and go and whatever, but what you're doing is you're stripping your body of energy that it needs to survive the shift. Now, if you want to do a quick 1 hour race, an old cycling trick is that you have 2 strong cups of coffee before the race, and that then allows you to access all that energy for the period. But if you're on something that's going to take 5 or 6 hours, don't touch coffee. So all of these gels or what have you that you can get, and that's another thing I'd look at, carbs gels, very good. If you have those on your breaks, quite good, about £1 a pop. But if you go for the carbs gels that have got caffeine in them, yeah, not good. Yeah. So what I would tend to do is perhaps if you're coming towards the end of your shift, have a caffeine type thing, and that will perk you up for the last hour. But during the rest of the shift, don't. Another thing about your shift, when you go to the gym or you do the workouts on telly or what have you, there's a big thing about warm-ups and stretching. Yeah. And you're very aware if you're lifting weights or doing those sort of things, warm up and stretch. Yeah, so that your muscles are nicely warmed up and toned, and you're not starting the day with cold muscles that can get you an injury. Same thing for work. How many of you actually do warm-ups before work? Now, I worked at one Japanese company, and the thing was, everybody, even the people on the production line, people in the offices or what have you, 50 minutes before shift, bang, they're doing workouts. Do the same. Yeah, just warm your muscles up, get everything, bit of cardio, just 10 minutes. Think of it like a HIIT workout or something like that before you start. I always found cycling into work great. You're warmed up by the time you turn up. But up to you guys. But I would say treat it like a sport event where you're expecting to do up to 10 miles with lifting and handling and various other bits. A lot of people say, oh, well, I don't see the problem. Try it. Try what I'm on about. Try working on your diet. Try that sort of thing and see if it makes a difference to you. Anyway, there's my words of wisdom. Speak to you next time.